many different ways to embellish a Crochet Amigurumi toy with embroidery. As you can see here, Barney the Basset has a surface embroidery using a very plain and simple and very tidy satin stitch along his back, which is on top of the normal single crochet. He also has some embroidery along his head here, as well as little eyebrows being created. And he even has an embroidered nose on the front. Here we also have, this is Philly the Corgi, and here we've got some embroidery that's a bit messier on the front chest. You can also see that we have a nice little smile added on here, as well as little ear patches and eyebrows going partially over the eyes, and even little toes added here. And you can also see another method here on the gingerbread pattern in the eyes, as well as a very simple, straightforward stitch for the smile, as well as just this little hand detailing here. So there are many different ways that you can embellish a Crochet Amigurumi toy using embroidery, and we're going to go over a few in this video. So here we have a bunny patch bunny. And what we want to do is just add a nice little embroidered eyebrow over the top of the eye that's already attached. So in order to do this, we have a little bit of yarn on a needle here. And we are going to simply weave this through a few stitches on the back, a little bit away from where the eye is. Pull this all the way through to the end. And then we're going to work this back onto itself, going through the stitches again to actually anchor it down. Okay, so that is secure. Now we're going to put this through the head of the bunny here until we get to the side of the eye, and we're going to pop that through. And oh, we lost a whisker there, so I'll have to fix that a little bit later. So we pop that through, and then we're simply going to go to the opposite side of the eye, go underneath the eye, and go back to where we started here. If you find it's a little tricky to pull through, you can reach for some pliers. I do find that it saves your fingers a little bit. Seems like an odd thing to need when you're working with little stuffed animals, but you know, anything that helps prevent the fingers from getting sore. So now we've got one little strand of yarn going over the eye, and we can repeat that as many times as we want to build that up. The more you put and the lower down the eye, you can make it look like it's sleeping. Okay, so let's go through and do that one more time here. Make sure that we're going to come out at the same spot as we did previously. So there we go. So to secure that down, we can simply work, pass the yarn through to another side on the toy. And then we're going to secure it as we did before by going through just a couple of stitches. And then we can pass it through again somewhere else. And then we are simply going to cut that off. So there you go. We have a little eyebrow added on to the top of the eye here. In a previous video on assembling a Nattypat Crochet pup, we created Lizzie the Corgi here. And because we were making the toy for a small child, we didn't add any facial features, eyes, or nose using plastic safety eyes, such as these little guys here, also come with these little washers. And we also didn't add the little plastic safety nose here that also comes with a washer because it could potentially be a choking hazard. So we're going to need to embroider the details on the face at the moment. So we have here our white yarn, and we're going to add a nice little stripe down the face. So anything that's going to go underneath the eyes you want to do first. So we're going to secure this by working through the white here, going through a couple of stitches. If you find that it's hard to pull through, you can grab a pair of pliers to give it a little bit of extra force. Pull that through until you get it to the end there. And then you want to work back onto itself in order to secure it down. Once again, I think I want to use the pliers to save my fingers. And there we go. So now we're going to guide that yarn through the nose and pop it up in the center of the head so we can work our embroidery down the front of the head. Because we're going through stuffing here, it gets quite tricky to pull through. So again, I do advise that you have a small pair of jewelry or beading pliers at hand. Needle nose pliers will also work from a general hardware kit as well. So now we have our yarn at the top. So we're going to do sort of a messy embroidery technique just by layering the stitches on top of each other. This is a technique that was used for Lizzie's friend Philly here. You can see that the stitches kind of go a little bit all over the place, overlapping each other to give a nice finish. So to do this, you simply want to go through the work, layering these sort of short little stitches on top of each other. You don't want to make them too long, as then they could sort of wiggle out of place on you every now and again, you know, as somebody is handling the toy. So you just sort of keep building these up. It takes a little bit of time, but this is really what adds the character to the toy in the long run. So I'm just going to keep working on this, and I'll be back with you in a moment with the finished little spot. So as you can see, we've now finished this nice little area on the front of the face. So let's go ahead and add the eyes. So we've got here some black yarn, and we're going to work this through the back of the head, going through to the front, where we'd like the eyes to be positioned. Pull that all the way through. And we're just going to leave a little bit here. Now I'm going to do a French knot because I'd like little Lizzie here to have little three-dimensional eyes. And again, because we're making this for children, we don't want to use the plastic items. So as you just saw me do here, you want to hold your needle against the surface of the work. You want to wrap the yarn around 3 times. Then you want to insert that through and push it through to the same spot where that yarn was originally inserted. Pull that all the way through. And as you can see, we have this nice little French knot created here, which adds a little bit of a ridge for the eye. Now what we want to do is we want to tie this off. So we're just going to do a knot like this, and then we're going to clip that off, and we're going to grab a crochet hook because this is one of the easier things to use. We're going to go through the stitches, coming up at this spot, and then we're going to grab this and we're going to pull it into the body. There we go. So that will permanently secure that. So that's how you can add a French knot eye onto a toy. Now we're going to start in the same way for the nose. Put that through from the bottom of the chin, going on to the front, leaving a little bit of a tail. And then we're going to do a very tidy satin stitch across the nose, just like that. And we're going to just keep going back across in this tidy satin stitch in order to create a nice little nose shape. So you just keep building up the stitches. Just like this. You can also use a shiny yarn if you'd like it to have a little bit of a visual contrast there. Or you could even use a thinner embroidery floss. However, just note that if you're going to work with the embroidery floss, you will be going back and forth a little bit more just because you're going to have to build it up that much more. So now we have a little nose. We're going to put this through, lead this back through to the same spot where we initially started once again. Just got to loosen this little knot here. Continue pulling through. Once again, you can tie or snip that off and tie it off with a knot. Take our crochet hook through the toy. You can use a smaller crochet hook if you'd like, could make it a little bit easier. And then you're just going to pull this through the head once again to hide off that edge. So there we now have a nose and one eye. So now we're just going to take a little break and we'll get back to you with the mouth. Okay, so we've now added on both eyes as well as the nose and the little bridge here. And we're going to add the smile. So all you need to do is insert with embroidery floss underneath through the bottom up to the nose, popping in just underneath the nose. Pull that through. Make sure to leave a tail here. Then go back down to this original insertion point and off to the side a little bit and bring your needle out and pull. Then once again go back to the middle, go over to the side and pull, and then once again go back to the middle, except this time what you want to do is just insert the needle underneath this loop here that's making the part coming from the nose and pull down. Now what you will do is simply tie this with a little knot. Cut this off. And then using a crochet hook, you're just going to insert through the toy up to this little spot. If you can force the hook through just like this, a smaller hook would make it a little bit easier. And then pull that through. Like that. And now little Lizzie here has a nice little smile. Now sometimes you might want to add a nicely even spot onto a toy, just like we have here with Barney the Basset in this black area. So to do this, you just need to have some very tidy satin stitches. So we have our yarn here with our tapestry needle. And we're just going to work through a couple of stitches here. Pull that through all the way to the end. And then work back onto itself. Making sure that you skip one little loop so you don't pull it all the way out. Then pull through. And now you've got a secure part to start with. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a nice little back spot. So we're going to go up here, we're going to go through a stitch, pull that through, and then we're going to go over to the opposite side here, go through, and We're just going to layer these back and forth, nice and even. Making sure that we don't pull them really, really tight because we don't want to cinch the body together. We just want to create this nice little surface effect. Again, having pliers is quite helpful in order to save your hands. So you just want to work evenly back and forth in order to slowly build up these stitches. Doesn't look like much at first, but trust me, by the end you will have a very nice back spot for this toy. So as you can see, we now have a nice little tidy back spot. And one thing I like to do is to tidy up these little unfinished edges on the side. I like to add a little stitch just to create a nice smooth finished edge. So I'll do a border around the entire spot just to give it a little extra finish. Okay, so now that that's done, we can then put the yarn underneath here. Try to go through a couple of stitches. You just kind of have to do it by feel. So we're just trying to secure this off. So pull through. And then just insert this through the toy, popping out on another side. Pull that through and then fasten off as we have done before. So there we have a nice little back spot. So the last thing that we have to do to finish off Lizzie here is to add the little toes. So we've got some embroidery floss threaded here on a needle, and we're going to start at the bottom of the foot. So we're going to insert this through the bottom of the foot and come up just one stitch up, just like this. You want to leave a tail and hold that down with your finger, then moving to the top of the foot, insert one row up, and then put the needle out a couple stitches over, and this is going to create the first little toe line. Now we want to take this thread and we want to go down to within one stitch of the middle, so insert the hook there, and then move a little bit over and out, just like this. So that then adds our second toe. Then we want to go back up and go through the top once again and come out this time through the bottom of the foot and exactly in the middle where we entered previously. Whoops. Always good to keep track of that little loop. And then pull. So then we have our final little toe added. So to finish this off, we simply want to tie a knot here. You don't want to pull it too tight or you're going to start to pull those toes in. Then we want to fasten that off. Then with a nice small crochet hook, you want to insert it through the top of the leg and out the center of the foot. Hook on to these little threads and pull through. You can also use something else to poke that through the bottom if necessary. So that is how you create the little feet. So now we have an almost finished Lizzie. We just have 2 more toes to do, but I think you get the idea. So now you have all the skills you need to create the perfect embroidery embellishments for your amigurumi toys.